Hi and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is VlogsBoutNothin. Thank you very much for watching my channel. I really appreciate it. To all of the new people that are on, it's kind of like a new daily thing. You feel me? So definitely check out any of the other close to 700 videos that I have posted on the channel. I'm an IRL vlogger. I just vlog about my life and what's going on and what I think about it and stuff, and a whole lot of nothing. So that's basically what's happening here. And so I hope that you guys are doing really well. It's Saturday night, so definitely, as I always say, I hope I'm really bothering you. I hope the notification on your phone is going off just as you're right about to do something extremely important. That's just my job. Sort of like a troll. Consider me a troll. I'm a joke. It's all a joke. Speaking of jokes, let's talk about tonight's topic, which is, interestingly enough, probably the biggest joke I've heard all year. And that is that, according to many news outlets and commercial major media mainstream people, what do you call these people? The entertainers of the free world have just all kind of collectively decided that inflation is this year's biggest political campaign issue. Um, I've heard neither one of these candidates speak about inflation. Um, I don't really know of like anyone under the age of 40 who really even understands what inflation is, much less it being so important that it's more important than nationalized health care or legalizing marijuana or open borders. I mean, there's all kinds of different real issues that could be tackled, seeing as though it is a presidential election year. However, the big guys down on it, NBC, ABC, and CBS, have decided that the biggest issue is inflation. And as much as I want to talk about inflation, I just also am a normal person and don't really feel like vesting any more of my time, energy, or life to the acknowledgement of a mandated economic policy that is a really, really easy kind of disguise to really cloak what's like the underlying problem, and that is capitalism. And so the problem is never inflation, only the economic system that we are currently practicing, and that's capitalism. Capitalism is not democracy. However, I've taken it upon myself to label myself a social capitalist. And so, what that means is that while I do believe in a free market and some good old hearty competition, I feel as though there are some basic fundamental rights that can be provided by our government, or as we like to call them on this channel, Uncle Sam and Uncle Anthony, and why we can't have access to these, what I would argue, inalienable human rights, such as healthcare, education, universal basic income. I mean, these are some of the things that come with being a social capitalist. Mind you, capitalist and capitalism is still right there for all you good old American boys out there who want to compete in an honest way and let the best man, person, woman, they, them, it, or whatever it might be, win. You feel me? So there's no backing down from competition. Where there's a free market, there will always be people willing to compete to be the best. And there should be some incentivization for being your best self and for treating life like a competition and being literally better than other people at whatever it is that you do. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen basketballs before, but we're nowhere near the skill level of LeBron James, right? I mean, just because we've all seen Heldon played a basketball game doesn't make us the experts that people genuinely are in these different kinds of fields. And so inflation's boring. Inflation only means that things are going to cost a little bit more the next year. And again, that is not a debatable point. If we want to continue to be capitalists and live in this democracy where capitalism is practiced as our economic model, then we would all kind of collectively understand that inflation is something that happens, it cannot be avoided, and what we should be more concerned about is anything other than inflation, because inflation is not to blame for 300% increase markups at your local grocery store. So don't let people fool you. Inflation is 2%, 1%. Our global GDP is around 17 to 25 trillion dollars. Inflation will be okay. The United States of America's dollar, or the USD, is the currency the world uses to barter and exchange in return for goods and services. It's not like you've ever heard as an American here, have you? Would you like that change back in yen? Would you like that change back in euro? How about some francs? Are francs still a thing? Probably not. Is that like a German thing? They use euros now. I don't know. See, I'm just an American. Just a privileged, well to do, poor, unemployed American. I mean, I understand what inflation is, and so let's not collude the truth with what really needs to be talked about. And I guess boomers have decided that this year's election is going to fundamentally come down to whether or not Donald Trump or Kamala Harris can successfully profess to the American electorate their undying need to reform and curb inflation. All a bunch of nonsense. So nonsensical that, I mean, I'm not a doctor and it's a good thing, because I think I would just go around, like saying, I'm pretty sure we're all kind of a little off here, because this isn't what should be happening. Not by any stretch of the imagination, but all right, we'll approach this in a way that is rational and logical. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump being elected to lead our free world so that they can kick back and curb inflation. What are they going to do? Are they going to change the Constitution? Are they going to reprioritize an economic model that they directly benefit from? Both of them. I just don't see any of those things actually happening. So when major news outlets are trying to say that inflation is the major issue this year, I just, a little bit of me just slowly kind of fades away into existence. Just a little bit more, right? Because it's so far from the truth. Economic models, fiat currency, the current economic model being corrupted by people with other intents, like, and not being competitive, or not, I call these, and antitrust legislation. That's something this country hasn't seen in close to 100 years. And in fact, many antitrust legislative bills have been rolled back. I mean, we think to ourselves the breakup of OPEC, they're the large multinational conglomerates that the robber barons, I mean, have you guys, am I the only person that remembers history? And if I am, help us all, because I barely remember any of it. And I, was always just kind of passively trying to get through the day, Still, same situation 25 years later. If I could have told my 10-year-old self that I'd basically be doing the same thing 25 years later, my 10-year-old self would have confidently been okay with that. Just like my 36-year-old self is definitely okay with recognizing that too. If I could kick it with my 10-year-old self, we'd be having a blast. I'm just saying. But regardless, it's really important to not let people distract you, right? I mean, I kind of try to make a point here in the video to do that in several different ways and different scenarios. And if you didn't get that, that's why I'm letting you know, because it's important not to get distracted. It's imperative that we all understand what's happening and that we can provide our informed consent, because that's really the only way things are going to get done. Transparency, accountability, all of these large keywords that politicians use and that are often missing from their vocabulary until they're called out on it. This is an exact example of why this country needs drastic change. And no, not the January 6th funky, weird, Russian influence, none of that, you know? We need no help here in America to make things better for ourselves. Thanks, though, Russia. We appreciate it. Anyways, seeing as though this is an American problem and it must be handled within house, I feel like it's time to start handling these problems in house and peacefully and diplomatically and as amicably as possible, because I'm not interested in Russian style politics. No offense to Russians. Historically speaking, as more of like a cutthroat kind of a thing, I am a reasonable guy and I'm willing to compromise, to offer solutions that benefit more people than harm. And I feel like that's a pretty safe wave to ride, you know? I mean, I'm not anti anything other than unwillingness to cooperate for any reason. Because I'm willing to cooperate, and I understand that as I say this, the world is on fire, and yet I'm still willing to cooperate. No problem. No problem at all. Wages haven't been raised in close to 50 years. And I say that with the direct correlation to its impact on a living wage. So, yes, the minimum wage was federally raised in like 1994 or something, but that was still close to 30 years ago. And that's a federal minimum wage, not a living wage. Again, something that you conservatives out there and both liberals and like extreme rightists don't even. Why is this not in our vocabulary? It almost sounds like you guys are all on the same team, and you're kind of just pandering on a different label from a different sponsor, but the money all goes to the same people. You feel me? Y'all. And that's not fair, because unlike Nancy Pelosi, most of the hundreds of millions of Americans that reside in this country are never going to have the opportunity to marry into wealth, to become lifelong senators, and then shake us all down right when it's time to retire. Yeah, Miss Pelosi, I'm talking to you, because that's exactly what you've done to this country. And while you may have done excellent things for the state of California at the beginning of your career, since then you've become one of the wealthiest women in our country, and you have completely turned your back on not only the Democratic Party, but more importantly, on the constituents that reside within the counties that elect you to be there every single time somebody turns on the news for the last 40 years. Get it together, lady. Seriously. Now, the thing is, change must come. You feel me? And that's the whole point of this video, is that you guys, they're going to try and say things are about inflation, immigration debates. Like, where are these two fools anyway? They've given one presidential debate, one nominee hasn't even been nominated in the way that she should have been, and the other nominee should have been convicted of treason. And, I mean, while I'm not a huge fan of locking up former commanders in chiefs, I definitely think maybe some probation for committing such a really, really, really high crime. I mean, I don't even believe in the death penalty. I don't believe in lots of things, right? I do believe in the fact that I think we can all get along a little bit better, and that we can make better decisions, and that we can start to talk about the truth. Because I don't want to continue to talk about lies or things that just don't matter, like inflation. Inflation doesn't matter. Am I the first and only person to ever tell you that? Because it's a scare tactic, and now you're going to Google inflation and try to figure out it's not a big deal. It is not. It is a necessary evil, for lack of better words, as it concerns the current economic model and its ever pervasive and incessant need for growth, right? I mean, again, the economy is driven by fiat currency. To you guys out there who don't know what that means it's made up. It means nothing is behind it. It means it's all a belief. And so, that's what it is. And so I would argue that we should believe in something better, something other than what we currently believe in, right? Because that's what ultimately is behind the scenes. A bunch of people given power from other people based on the transaction of a currency that doesn't even have intrinsic value. How crazy is that? I mean, really, I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, this is real life, right? I mean, as so far as I know, I'm not a character in a video game that is being run by some other person above me, and it's like Monopoly, only Second Life mixed in with the little Sims. And I just, what is going on, you know? So while I spend the rest of my life trying to figure out some of these core problems, I'm gonna go get this pizza out of the oven because I'm afraid it's gonna burn, and I'm gonna have it on for my roommate and I'm trying to put on a movie, guys, some soda here even. I bought some Coca-Cola. Anyways, I hope that you guys have a really good night, and thank you for watching my channel.